Happy to see everybody. We're going to call the meeting to order in 1 minute.
Right.
And that will.
It is.
It says it's on. And I'm going to, we have our agenda set. We have several people scheduled today to bring us information. And I'd like for my colleagues to introduce themselves, share any thoughts, opening thoughts.
Good afternoon. Thank y'all for being with us today. I'm Max Burns, Senator Max Burns. I represent the 23rd Senate District, which is 11 counties along the eastern border of Georgia with South Carolina, from Augusta about halfway down to Savannah. I have the privilege of chairing the Higher Education Committee in the Senate, and I'm glad to be a participant in the Affordability State. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Senator Rick Williams from Milledgeville, the 25th District. I have all of Baldwin, Putnam, Jones, Jasper, Butts, part of Bibb, part of Henry. But Milledgeville is my home. I have 3 colleges: Georgia Military College, Georgia College, and a vocational, Central Georgia Vocational Technical School. And also a member on higher ed, and glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
I'm State Senator Gail Davenport, and I represent Senate District 17, portions of Clayton County and portions of Henry County, and I live in Jonesboro, grew up there. Glad to be here and be a part of this committee.
And graduate of a HBCU known as?
Spelman College.
Can't leave that out. I want to thank all the staff that work so diligently to make us look smart and informed and have everything at our fingertips. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we will proceed to our. It just occurred to me, Senator, that Georgia Military College is not with us today, and we had talked to them about coming up when we were in session, and that's a dropped ball. That, as you were introducing yourself, I realized that.
Maybe we can get them at the next one.
We certainly have that opportunity. That will be the final meeting will be December the 2nd. And we have covered a lot of ground, had fulsome testimony at each of our preceding sessions, and I want to acknowledge all of the efforts for those that have worked in this space, many for decades, on opening pathways to post-secondary education opportunities. Many of you have just been invaluable sources of information for myself and the committee. We will open our testimony today with the Executive Director of One Goal, Taylor Ramsey, who also has going to be introducing to us 2 students that have participated in the One Goal program, Faith Osby and Jordan Winfrey. Ms. Ramsey?
There we go. Good afternoon, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee, and distinguished guests. My name is Taylor Ramsey, and I am the Executive Director of One Goal, a college access and success organization. In addition to that, I am a wife, a mother, a DeKalb County public school parent, and first-generation college graduate. I know firsthand the transformative power a post-secondary education can have to one's economic and life prospects, and it is in part why I am so committed to this work. One Goal's vision is that every student have an equitable opportunity to achieve their greatest post-secondary aspirations. And our mission is to lead the movement to transform post-secondary advising and support. Here in Georgia, we serve 1,500 students across 17 high schools and 6 districts. We serve in the Atlanta Public Schools, South Fulton, Clayton County, Henry County, Newton, and City Schools of Decatur. One Goal supports educators and students by making college and career planning integral to the high school experience. It begins with the One Goal course in 11th and 12th grade and continues with intensive remote support through the critical first year of a student's post-secondary pathway. 88% of our students are Pell eligible. 78% of them stay in Georgia, attending schools like GSU, Kennesaw, Clayton State, Atlanta Technical College, Savannah State, Albany, and Fort Valley. Additionally, our program serves students we like to call in the mighty middle. We work with hard-working students, often overlooked by other post-secondary programs. Our students have an average GPA of a 2.9. As a result of our work, 72% of students enroll within 14 months of graduation, 70% persist 1 year later, and in a study of One Goal graduates, our students are 40% more likely to earn a college degree or credential than their similar peers. Most of our partner high schools are Title I schools and have college enrollment rates that hover between 33 and 50%. Our students who do enroll in college, they are in many respects already defying the odds. During a student's time in One Goal, we aim to help them and their families make the most consequential decisions of their lives, what to do after high school, especially connected to long-term career aspirations and to institutions where they will have the greatest likelihood of completing a degree or credential. For about 15 to 20% of our students, their career aspirations align to an associate's degree or technical college system of Georgia program. For the remainder of our students, a 4-year degree is likely the path they need to pursue in order to reach their career aspirations. So, as we consider whether 4-year degrees are affordable, I think helpful to reground in whether bachelor degrees are important at all. It has been a hot topic as of late. I wanted to revisit some of the data Dr. Dana Rickman displayed at the last Senate Study Committee meeting. At One Goal, we believe in connecting students to the post-secondary path that most aligns with their career aspirations, but we also have an interest in ensuring that students can meet the job market of the future, both for what it would mean for them personally and what it would mean for our local communities and economy. Per data coming from the state, we know that 78% of Georgia's, quote, hot occupations will in fact require a bachelor's degree. So let's talk about what we see in affordability. I know I don't have to tell you, but many students and their families struggle to meet their basic needs on an annual basis and will have little to no discretionary money to put towards college. My family was in that category. 47% of Georgia's families meet the definition of ALICE, asset limited, income constrained, employed category. As part of our work with students, we help them understand the true cost of college and what it will take to finance it, especially without the ability for families to make significant or potentially any financial contribution. We find that when a student receives their financial aid letter, they are often surprised at the hidden costs: transportation, required meal plans, books and supplies, and other school-related fees. For example, a HOPE-eligible student receiving a full Pell Grant and maximum federal student loans will still have a roughly $6,000 balance to attend a school like Fort Valley State University, according to their current cost of attendance. In fact, of the estimated $24,000 cost to attend Fort Valley, tuition is only $5,220, a fifth of the overall cost, and the only part that, as you know, is covered by the HOPE scholarship. As you look at public institutions across the state, the story would be much the same. Not only do students have to work to cover that substantial gap, they also have to consider how they'll afford a $300 textbook or the laptop needed to submit assignments or even basic daily needs. What we have found is that while HOPE helps, it does not help enough students, and for many students, it does not fill the gap. According to a study by the GPPI in 2020, only 44% of undergraduate students qualify for the HOPE scholarship. In a recent study of the Hope Scholarship, it found that 42% of students lose their Hope Scholarship by the 90-credit checkpoint. The investment that the state has made in the Hope Scholarship does demonstrate its commitment to post-secondary outcomes. Trust me, as a parent, I have already outlined for my 10-year-old son my expectation that he will get the Hope or even Zell Miller Scholarship. But for many of Georgia's young people, in fact, most of Georgia's young people, the Hope Scholarship, as currently structured, is out of reach and not enough. As a result, many students have to make difficult trade-offs, working full-time, living off campus, or in some cases not going to college at all. And there's a good deal of research that shows. Our state has the chance to determine how to expand opportunity for many more students and move many more Georgians through post-secondary credentials and into our workforce by building on the positive impact of the HOPE program and recognizing its current limitations. That brings me to our recommendation. It is our hope that in order to support the economic mobility of individuals and the economic vitality of our state, that Georgia should invest in a renewable need-based aid program that complements the HOPE program and allows financially vulnerable students to start college with enough funding to enroll, persist, and complete their post-secondary credentials. So now it's my great honor and privilege to introduce two of our remarkable One Goal Fellows whose stories embody resilience and determination. And first we have Faith Osby, a proud graduate of South Atlanta High School, and Jordan Winfrey, a graduate of Benjamin E. Mays, both members of the high school classes of 2023. Today, not only they represent alumni of the One Goal program, they're APS graduates, and also current students at Kennesaw State University, a post-secondary partner that we deeply value. Their journeys reflect the very real challenges many of Georgia's young people face and the incredible perseverance required to push forward, stay committed, and continue to build towards their goals. They represent the heart of why we do this work, but I hope we will consider how to make their journeys a little easier so that they and many others can build the futures they deserve and, frankly, the communities our state needs. So please welcome me in welcoming Jordan and then Faith. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. My name is Jordan Winfrey, and I'm a junior at Kennesaw State University, majoring in health science, and the first in my family to attend college. I'm a proud graduate of Benjamin E. Mays High School, class of 2023, and have lived in Georgia my entire life and plan to live in Georgia after college. My college degree is one stepping stone on my journey. After hearing my mom share stories of her work in the emergency room, I knew that my passion for caring for others and the love of medicine would best serve me in a career as a nurse. When it came time for me to decide what to do when I graduated from high school, college was always my plan. I wanted to show my younger brother and sister that they could change their lives through attending college and making my parents proud. I knew that I wanted to be close to home and near my siblings, but I wanted to experience something that was different from my high school. I went on a field trip to Kennesaw State University in 8th grade and loved the campus and knew it was the right place for me. Once I was accepted there, I was excited to be receiving the HOPE Scholarship and the Achieve Atlanta Scholarship and receive the full Pell Grant as well. This made it so I was able to pay my bill from Kennesaw State without any additional debt at the beginning of my freshman year. What I didn't prepare for was the additional cost of books and supplies. Thankfully, I had One Goal to help me afford the need for my classes. I moved onto campus as a full-time freshman and was working so hard in all of my classes. I had always considered myself a strong student in high school and graduated with a 3.53. But my first chemistry class was really challenging. I had only ever taken chemistry online during COVID back in 2021. And I was really struggling with the content in the college environment. I ended up dropping the class because I wasn't going to be able to pass it. Unfortunately, that meant I lost my eligibility for HOPE, and now I had to cover a $5,000 gap to stay in school. I started working and had to take out loans to stay in school, and had to make the choice to move off campus because I couldn't afford the required meal plan. Now as a junior, I've been working for the past 2 years to regain my HOPE scholarship, but balancing 30 hours of work each week with being a full-time student is challenging. and passing my classes has been an uphill climb. Right now, I work to cover the cost of my rent and make just enough to cover the cost for me getting to and from campus to go to my classes. I've been lucky enough to have family help fund things like groceries, and OneGo has helped with the tuition gap and basic apartment supplies, which is something that I wish more of my friends had access to. My experience is not unique. All of my friends have had financial challenges in staying in school, have to go on payment plans, or drop out to work to save enough money to afford their classes. Without the support that I received from programs like OneGo and Achieve Atlanta, I'm not sure I would have been able to stay in school without taking a break. And so many of my peers have not been as fortunate. If I were able to work fewer hours, I'd be able to focus more on my classes and see my grades improve, ultimately putting me back on track for my Hope Scholarship. I'm determined to earn my degree, become a nurse here in Georgia, and make my family proud. And I hope that my experience shines a light on the struggles that thousands of students just like me in the state of Georgia are encountering every year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jordan.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me today. My name is Faith Osby, and I'm a junior at Kennesaw State University, majoring in information systems. I'm the first person in my family to attend college. When I started my junior year at South Atlanta High School, I had recently transferred in and met Mr. Watson, my OneGo teacher. Mr. Watson supported me navigating a very tricky college application and FAFSA process. My family had been experiencing homelessness, and I didn't have support from my parents, so I wasn't sure what this process would look like for me or how I would pay for college. When I received my financial award letter from Kennesaw State, I was surprised by how many costs still weren't covered, even after receiving 2 private scholarships, a full Pell Grant, and the Hope Scholarship. Hope covered only my tuition, which was about $5,500 out of $28,000. I was lucky to be able to use the OneGo enrollment grant to support covering the cost of a laptop for school and some other basic supplies. My first semester on campus was rough. There were so many things at attending college that I didn't know how to navigate, and my family couldn't support. Though I had never struggled in math in high school, I had failed my first freshman algebra class and lost my Hope Scholarship. I tried to retake the class over the summer to regain hope, but because I couldn't use financial aid to cover these classes, I had to work to pay the full amount out of pocket. My work schedule didn't allow me to prioritize school, but I couldn't pay for these classes without working, so I had to make the difficult decision to drop out of these classes, rather than fail them and get further away from my degree and regaining hope. It's been 2 years of working to regain my Hope Scholarship. Despite strong grades, I still haven't been able to do so. When I started my sophomore year last fall, I had to make yet another difficult decision. The cost of living on campus left me with an $8,000 gap to close my classes, so my classes wouldn't be dropped, and I had already maxed out my student loans. Though I knew that living on campus would allow me to be more involved and build stronger connections and network when I graduated, I had to move off campus to save money. Right now, I am a full-time student, and I work 40 hours a week to cover my rent, living expenses like food, transportation to and from my classes. I share my story today to highlight how much I would have benefited from need-based aid. I am the only one of my friends in high school who is still in college as of class of 2023. Which seems crazy, but unfortunately is true. I'm determined to finish my degree through the support of my friends and programs like OneGo. I know that I will. But I will have to continue to take and pay for these summer classes out of pocket to finish my degree on time, meaning that I'll continue to need to work full-time to pay for them. I'd love to be able to find a job or paid internship more aligned with my career goals, but I've needed to prioritize getting the money I need now to take courses I need to get my degree. I hope that for the future students, we can continue to prioritize those who are low income and invest their post-secondary education through expanding funding so that more students like me are able to complete their degrees. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these firsthand accounts that you've painted both of you have painted a vivid picture for us. Are there questions or comments from any of my fellow committee members? Faith, let me, I just wanted to remind us what your major is and your career aspiration.
My major is information systems.
Mhm.
And my career aspirations, while they haven't been narrowed down right now, it is a very broad subject I can get into. So I'm hoping to find my way in some tech-based company.
Thank you, thank you. Senator Burns?
Let me say thank you to One Goal and Achieve Atlanta. This is not the first opportunity we've had to learn of your good work. Thank you for doing that. It's a challenge, and right now you begin your engagement at the 11th grade. Is that correct?
Yes. That's right.
When you that's kind of, they're really kind of at the end of the cycle, and they're really right up against decision making when it comes to careers and colleges. Is there any way we can bring that further down the education stream? What are your thoughts there?
Well, it is something as an organization we have discussed, and I would say it is one thing our school partners do ask for, is to start working with students earlier, and we may do that in the coming years. But I will say, we do find that junior year, because we start working with students the beginning of their junior year.
So they've got 2 good years.
It
Year and a
is,
half at
and
least.
it is, and it's an important transition period. And, I think as students are younger, college can still feel a little far away, a little distal, whereas this becomes much more concrete. So we do think it's an important transition
Oh,
period.
absolutely.
But you're right that you couldn't start early enough in many regard.
Yeah, I would say that just exposing that 8th grader, that 9th grader to career options and potential paths to a professional environment, and then making sure they kind of gain some insights about what expectations, what educational needs they may need. That would be helpful. One of the things that struck me from your students, I want to make sure I get the right way. Faith, you made a comment about South Atlanta High School. Is that right?
Yes.
And that you're come back up and
Jordan,
share.
do you want to come up here too?
Yeah, both of you. You made I think I heard the comment that you may be one of the only ones in your high school class that's still persevering in your college.
From my friend circle, at least,
From your
I'm the
friends
only
group.
one
Okay,
in my
so
circle.
From those folks that were your buds, right?
Mm-hmm.
That y'all hung out together. You're the one who's the last person.
I'm the only one still in college
Wow.
as of right now.
Yeah, we need all of them there. You know that. Jordan, do you have a similar experience? Do you have a number of friends who started but have, 2 years later maybe not been able to persevere?
Somewhat. I have a couple people that was not in my immediate friend group that didn't finish college, but in my friend circle, I did have a friend where she had to take a gap year, and then once she took that gap year, she actually went to Clayton State, and she's on a payment plan right now just to pay for her college, just to pay her balances.
Well, let me thank both of you. You are both in high demand fields. You know that. You're both pursuing degrees in healthcare and in information systems that will support Georgia's future workforce needs. So thank you for doing that. I recognize that those 2 areas are not the first choice of a number of people, but I'm glad that that's where you found an interest, and that's a positive thing. So thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Senator Davenport.
Let me just ask, did both of you say you were first generation?
Yes. Yes.
And you have other siblings?
I
Yes.
do.
Both.
I'm the oldest of 7, actually.
The oldest of 7?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So your family would be very challenged
Yes.
to keep producing more college aspiring siblings with the costs that you've outlined. I had a question, Taylor, for you about One Goal. How do you finance, how do you underwrite? You're serving 1,500 students, I believe you said.
That's right.
In yes, very,
Yeah.
How many schools?
We're in 17 high schools across 6 public school districts.
6
Yep.
districts. Uh-huh.
And the way we finance our program is through a combination of Achieve Atlanta is an important contributor to us for our work in Atlanta public schools only. And then we ask schools and districts to pay what amounts to a very small portion, about 20% of costs. Sometimes schools and districts can pay it, sometimes they cannot. And then we raise the rest through philanthropy.
So that's, you're wearing many hats because you're also, I'm sure, in charge of the fundraising.
Yes,
It comes to rest on your desk.
that's right.
And you all were formed in what year?
We are a 20-year-old organization, started in Chicago.
Oh.
Yeah, so
oh.
we're a nationwide organization, yes, and have been in Atlanta for the last 8 years.
Well, now, in other, are you a part of the leadership nationally, or the?
Yes, so each region has an executive director, and then I would sit on the national leadership team as well.
I see.
That's right.
So, so you have the benefit then of some experience from the colleagues that are working in your organization. About 48 states do
Yes.
have needs-based.
That's right. And I would say I do think that the One Goal students here in Georgia face challenges that are fairly unique to our context because of the lack of need-based aid. And I would say for our students, their number one barrier both to entering college or a post-secondary pathway of any kind is finances, and the number one barrier to them staying in school is finances. And I think you heard this sort of, vicious cycle that can start, which is one rough semester, right, where you maybe even started with the Hope Scholarship, but then lose the Hope Scholarship, then means you have to work more, which then makes it harder to focus on your studies, right? Which then makes it harder to regain financial aid. And you're in this pretty vicious loop. And so, my request is how do we safeguard students from the beginning so that they don't have as much financial pressure on them day to day and can graduate on time.
Which is a plus for all involved.
Including the state.
Yeah,
Yes.
including the state, and get
Yes.
you in the workforce earlier,
That's right.
and at a lower cost.
That's right.
If when you don't have to prolong it. I know my oldest son had 6 years getting out of tech, but he was working as well. And the longer you extend to working towards that degree, of course, the ticker is running. I mean, the bill for the education is
Yeah, and therefore less likely to complete.
exactly even more challenge. Yeah, even a greater challenge.
That's right.
Well, thank you very much. Yes, sure, please.
Just to help me understand, both of you, when you finished your high school preparation, how many credit hours were you able to achieve with either dual enrollment or AP classes before you matriculated at Kennesaw? How many hours were you able to accumulate?
Did either of you do?
In high school.
In high school.
I didn't do dual enrollment, but I was able to complete, I believe my school only had 2 AP courses, and I completed one of them.
Okay, so you had very limited access to either AP or dual, is that correct?
I did. I myself couldn't do dual, but I was able to do at least one AP class.
So you did one AP class, which is 3, it's helpful, but one robust support in that area would facilitate perhaps your ability to progress. And Jordan, did you have access to that?
I did. So in order to get into the dual enrollment program, you have to take a test, and I only passed the test to take American government. So I took that, and that gave me 3 credit hours.
So you also had only 3 hours when you enrolled at Kennesaw, which meant
Yes.
that on a 120-hour curriculum, you had just put your toe in the water on achieving hours toward graduation. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Even though, if I heard correctly, your GPAs are pretty strong, right? Okay.
Right, very, very much so.
Thank you.
If I could just add, though, to the AP piece.
Sure.
You know, I think I mentioned most of the schools we serve are Title I schools.
Sure.
I was actually just looking at these statistics recently. In the schools we serve, you're looking at less than 20% of students passing a single AP exam across their whole high school career, and sometimes it's even lower than that.
Say that one more time, please.
So around 20% or less of any students achieving even a single AP credit,
An
right?
AP
Passing any AP exam.
An AP class at 3 or higher, is that
Right,
right?
exactly, yeah, right. And again, not because students aren't capable and aspirational, but we know the correlations between poverty and academic achievement. And so, yes, you're looking at students who have a very strong, they left high school in a very strong position, and then are going to a wonderful institution like Kennesaw. It's going to be academically rigorous. They're going to have to meet those challenges, and it's hard, right? And then when we pull the rug from under them and take away that financial aid, then again, that downward spiral we've been talking about. It's a very hard, I think, pattern for students to get themselves out of. And they're working hard through it, but there's a lot of students who just are not going to be able to climb that hill. Yeah.
Just a comment.
Certainly.
I find that AP and dual enrollment are excellent tools to help prepare students and to give them a bit of a leg up. Perhaps Achieve Atlanta and One Goal could partner with USG, TCSG schools in your area to maybe provide additional access to dual enrollment programs.
Yeah.
Then the advantage of a dual enrollment over an AP. AP is extremely rigorous, as you have found out, and it's true. It's the way it's supposed to be. Perhaps dual enrollment would provide the support mechanism that some students would need to be successful. So, just an opportunity.
That's right. Thank you.
I had one more question, and that is, and you may be unaware of this, but the chancellor has publicly stated that standardized testing is going to begin again as a requirement for college admission. How's that going to work?
I would love to defer to colleagues too. I think the evidence is mixed actually in terms of whether or not test optional actually hurts or helps students in terms of college admission. There's some evidence, I think, that there's a level of bias when a college admission officer is looking at a high school that a student comes from. They might know that this high school is, quote, less academically rigorous than others. Whereas if students have actually taken standardized tests and the test score is what it is, it's exactly what it says. It's a standardized test. It does mean, though, that we have to prepare our students for standardized tests. There has to be room for it made. One Goal actually does provide room in our program to help students prepare for standardized tests. So I would defer to others too, but I think the evidence is a little mixed in terms of what it is. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing, but it just means we're going to have to prepare our students to meet that threshold.
But there is, and I don't know who you might suggest could answer this more thoroughly. There's just, I think, a massive amount of studies that find that standardized testing, again, based on your family income and how many members of previous generations
That's
were
right.
college bound or have benefited from college education, all of those things make a difference.
Yes.
In performance on standardized tests, and they show that the class disparities and racial disparities,
Yeah.
that's going to be another
Yes.
mountain to climb.
I mean, unfortunately, income is a predictor of every type of achievement, student achievement level in this country, because we know the barriers inherent in students living in poverty or coming from low-income backgrounds, and then what that means for their ability to achieve at high levels. Again, not because of any, personal lack of aptitude or aspiration. So, yes, it's no different with standardized tests.
Well, thank you again, and any other that feel free to include it, or if you want to add any perspective on that. We will hear from people as they come forward. Thank you very much, and again, 1,500 students in a vast sea of students across Georgia that could benefit from what's being provided by One Goal. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the students, you did a wonderful,
Yes, you did.
wonderful job, and we know who you are because we what you're doing and what you've achieved thus far, and the way that you've outlined for us the challenges is very illuminating and very much important to us as we consider solutions to these challenges. Thank you so much. I would point out that Valerie Johnson, Executive Director of Government Relations, is here. I don't see, yeah, on the very last row. What, goodness.
She's Baptist today.
But Valerie has, in our folders, a letter to the members of the Senate Higher Education Affordability Committee with attached data prepared in response to additional questions. And these materials provide further information on the cost of attendance, the Board of Regents waiver on policy 4.2.11, and the number of dropped students for fall of 25. That's a very significant piece of information that we really wanted to have, and 2025 semester. Who either never intended to attend or may have not been able to secure adequate resources to remain registered by the payment date. Thank you very much for getting back to us with these, and I think we received these yesterday, middle of the day yesterday. And I wanted to call our committee members' attention to this data, and we will we'll have to take a closer look at it as we move towards wrapping up the committee's work. And thank you for bringing that. And I'm sure that you have not changed your mind, Ms. Johnson, about presenting on these numbers. Is that right?
Absolutely correct, ma'am. We are happy to gather data for you. If you have any questions, we're happy to circle up with you all and have discussions.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Next, coming to the podium, I'd like to recognize Devin Rudy Johnson, the Youth Engagement Coordinator for the Multi-Agency Alliance for Children.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Hi there.
Yes. All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us. My name is Devin Rudy Johnson, and I am an adult supporter of a group called Georgia Empowerment. What we do is we ensure that young people with experience in foster care are in the rooms when people are making policies about them and that they can use their voice. That being said, our motto is simple and powerful: nothing about us without us. We want to thank you also, Senator Orrick, last time we were here, for taking some time to speak with us and making sure that we could come speak today. First, we also want to thank you all. We are very grateful for the passing of SB 85 last legislative session. That was the Georgia Foster Care Scholarship Grant. Your decisions to include our voices in its development last session demonstrated true partnership and commitment to supporting Georgia's future. The committee has heard a lot about what families can contribute. What about our young people who don't necessarily have that safety net? Mm-hmm. We want to respectfully request and maybe nudge a little bit for that initial funding for SB 85 to be allocated. Some of you may know, may not, that while it was passed and signed by our governor, it does not go into effect until funds are appropriated, and none have been appropriated as of yet. The scholarship represents something truly revolutionary for our young people. Unbiased support based solely on their foster care experience. It's a need-based aid. Unlike other funding sources for this vulnerable population, SB 85 doesn't require youth to recount trauma or navigate invasive systems requirements that can feel exploitative and re-traumatizing. SB 85 will work in harmony with existing funding streams like the Federal Education and Training Voucher. From this point forward, I will say ETV, that is supported by the Chafee funds, which we also know have been drastically reduced year after year after year. The ETV funds provide crucial monthly stipends that these young people can use for food, help with paying rent, transportation, and just any other basic needs. We also have the Fostering Success Act, which again, we are very grateful for the legislature's commitment to. And that does a really great job helping with other costs with school, those hidden costs that we've talked about. Along with it provides the opportunity for mentorship and life coaches. And then SB 85 focuses their funds on tuition, room and board, and specific educational needs. Together they create what every child deserves, a village. This village of financial support covers tuition and the hidden costs of post-secondary education that make the difference between surviving and thriving in college. By utilizing all three of these resources, like federal aid, FSA, and SB 85, we create a sustainable infrastructure of sharing the financial load for these young people to succeed. And there's some pretty clear data as well that supports this. I did give today, there's a one sheet with the data that I'm going to speak about, because I know for me it
Where is
helps
that?
to look at it.
It's not mine.
I have extras if it's needed. But so students with foster care experience are 3.5 times more likely to graduate with a bachelor's when their state has a waiver or scholarship program like SB 85. Embark, who manages ETV, shared some data recently in the Transition Age Youth Study Committee, and they have allowed me to also bring that here. 5.5% of transition age youth in Georgia who turn 18 while in care earn a post-secondary credential, compared to 36% of all adults in Georgia. Only about 9% of those students with lived experience persist past their first year. Financial barriers play a huge role in that. Embark found that those who had their financial support had a 65% chance increase of persisting past that first year and continuing their education. Those who also persisted past then had a 77% chance increase with that financial support of graduating. ETV has very similar requirements as SB 85, and annually they only serve about 250 to 300 students total. So SB 85 would serve around the same amount. We also learned some lessons about SB 107 from 2021, which is the technical school waiver for young people who have experienced foster care. Some of the lessons that we learned were that that bill did not mandate any one entity to collect data.
It did not mandate, repeat that?
Any one entity to collect data.
Oh, the data collection.
Yeah, so it's hard to really show what's happening. It also doesn't address one of the biggest barriers transition age youth face when they are leaving care, and that's housing. A lot of our technical schools don't have housing. It also doesn't allow young people to utilize ETV, those federal funds, at the same time as they use the waiver. So young people who choose to use the waiver instead cannot have that crucial monthly stipend for food or transportation because they can't live on campus. And that has been another barrier to the utilization of that. There's also some evidence with how SB 85 is laid out and how much we will utilize it. Texas has a very similar operated program. They've been doing it since the 1990s.
Who has it? Who has a similar?
Texas.
Uh-huh. Oh, Texas, huh?
Yes, and it's actually peer reviewed. But they found that 40% of the eligible students that could utilize their waivers didn't do it because of a complicated application process. Because the Georgia Student Finance Commission in SB 85 is charged with administering and handling all of that, that's a very streamlined infrastructure that we already have laid out that, again, won't require additional documents and everything else to be accumulated. It'll be an easier process, so we also had the chance to utilize it more. John Burton Advocates for Youth has also studied all of the waiver programs across the state, or across the nation, rather. And through their extensive research, if we combine SB 85 with ETV and FSA funds, we meet all of their best practice recommendations. And as a reminder, with SB 85, the intent in legislation read as they use federal aid first, so that's the Pell Grant and ETV, and then SB 85 would cover the rest of the tuition. Please also consider that many of these young people have faced considerable setbacks in their high school education, whether that be from moving from school to school and credits not transferring, delays in enrollment. All of these impact their ability to graduate on time. Not graduating on time also significantly reduces their the time allotted to utilize a lot of the things that we have available in Georgia for financial support. We also recognize that they may not qualify for our merit-based aid as a result. They also may not get to utilize programs like One Goal and Achieve at Atlanta because they've moved several schools, right? So there's a lot to consider here as well. And this isn't charity, right? It's smart fiscal policy. Systems involvement is expensive. By investing in education, Georgia breaks generational cycles of welfare and criminal justice involvement, and instead gains a skilled contributor to the workforce. Transition-age youth with post-secondary education also earn 60% more than their peers who do not. That comes right back into our economy. These young adults don't want handouts. They need a hand up to achieve their dreams. Allowing them to take part in the transformative power of higher education while not having to work 3 jobs or being strapped down to an enormous amount of crippling debt post-graduation will allow them to be even better contributors to our state's workforce. SB 85 positions Georgia as well as an innovative leader in supporting our most vulnerable young adults. It demonstrates that we're committed to action and not just words on paper. These young people have already overcome considerable extraordinary challenges. Removing financial barriers allows them to put their energy where it belongs, into their studies and their futures. By appropriating initial funds for SB 85, Georgia communicates 3 really powerful messages. We invest in potential, we break harmful cycles, and we build futures with the state's generous assistance. Thank you again for time and consideration to speak today. I'll do my best to answer any questions and follow up with any data or anything that's needed if I can't answer it. More importantly, though, I'm more than pleased to introduce Kyra Stout and Reginald Holloway, our lived experience experts, to tell you a little bit more about what their experience was like navigating financial aid.
Great, and then thank you, and then we'll come back to you with more questions, I'm sure, but
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Hi there. Are
Hi.
you-
Good afternoon, senators, committee members. My name is Kyra Stout, and I'm a second-year biology major at Georgia State University and a foster care lived experience expert with Georgia Empowerment as well. First, I want to thank you all for passing Senate Bill 85. Your support for this legislation was a powerful step forward for young people from foster care. Today, I'm also expressing my support for appropriating the funding needed to bring this bill to life so that it can truly help students like me access higher education. Even though I was only in one placement until I reunified with my family, I had to switch schooling formats 3 different times, moving between traditional, virtual, and alternative programs. Each switch meant a new grading system, new counselors, and new expectations. But what hurt most was losing credits I had already earned. I remember being told I'd have to repeat classes I had already passed simply because the schools couldn't align my records. It made me feel like all my efforts didn't matter. I wasn't failing because of my ability. I was failing because the system wasn't built for my situation. I spent years trying to make up for lost time, including requesting to take dual enrollment classes. However, that fell on deaf ears until it was too late. And even after reunifying, I was still catching up. Many youth lose hope eligibility due to disrupted academics, so SB 85 ensures that the cost of attendance, including housing and meals, is covered. Eventually, with the right support, I made it to Georgia State University, but I know too many young people who never get that chance. The instability we experience in schooling often overlaps with housing insecurity, making it even harder to stay focused. You can't plan your future when you're not sure where you'll live next month or how you will afford tuition. The good news is that in recent years, more housing vouchers have been administered to foster youth, but we don't yet have the updated numbers in 2025. What we do know is that many still face long waits and confusing eligibility rules that interrupt their education. That's why funding SB 85 is so important. It ensures foster youth have a clear path to college or career training. Some programs push youth toward a narrow set of careers, such as HVAC, construction, or cosmetology. While those fields are valuable, young people in care have diverse talents and aspirations, from pre-med, law, and social work to engineering, business, art, and cybersecurity. Limiting us to a short list of trades sends the message that we are not expected to achieve more. By covering four-year degrees and other undergraduate programs, SB 85 acknowledges that foster youth deserve the same range of opportunities as their peers and recognizes the critical role of post-secondary education in breaking cycles of poverty. So, whether that's HVAC, nursing, public health, or biology like me, the key is having choice. We deserve access to a range of educational options that reflect our individual goals and talents, not just one narrow track. We also need a streamlined application process. Youth in care already juggle case plans, DFACS paperwork, and countless life hurdles, all while trying to stay focused on school or even enrolling. When I applied for financial aid, it took months just to get the right documents for FAFSA verification. At one point, a financial aid counselor told me that many foster youth simply give up, not because they don't want an education, but because they're tired of being sent in circles. When some programs add another layer of red tape, it pushes people away. Fully funding and thoughtfully implementing SB 85 can change that. It can make opportunity feel simple, fair, and within reach. What this bill represents to me is stability. It says to young people who experience the system, you belong here. You have a right to learn, to dream, and to build a life that you're proud of. And I'll end with something Senator Chuck Payne once said to my team after the first Transition Age Youth Resource Senate Study Committee, which was that we need to keep teaching kids how to hope. We need to teach them to get their hope in front of them and to get them further ahead. That message touched my heart because hope is what got me here today, and hope is what full funding for SB 85 can provide for the next generation of students coming out of care. So thank you for your time, for passing this bill, and for continuing to include youth voices in the process of making it real. And now I'd like to introduce my colleague and fellow lived experience expert, Reginald Holloway, who will share his own story and perspective on why this funding is so critical from another angle of experience. Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Reginald Holloway, and I'm a youth advocate and lived experience expert with Georgia Empowerment, and also I'm a graduate of the University of West Georgia, where I earned my degree in communications, in particular digital media and entertainment, along with a minor in sociology. But I can assure you my journey to that degree was anything but easy. I entered college as a former foster youth facing housing instability and no financial safety net. I worked 2 jobs on campus just to survive while struggling to keep my grades up and maintaining my mental health. There were nights I did not know where I was going to go when school was closed for the holidays and breaks due to also having a family instability. Days when I could not focus in class because I was thinking about what was going to happen next. And later on in my senior year, I was dropped from my classes on several occasions because my educational funding was tied up in red tape or unfamiliar systems no one could quite navigate. I spent hours in financial aid offices talking to staff who did not understand the third-party support I qualified for. Support that was meant to help me stay in school, but often led to late fees or class registration holds instead. I even dropped my meal plan in one occurrence during my senior year to make the process of paying for school easier. And the financial aid office heard my sacrifice of that meal plan, and they assisted me in grocery assistance while also assuring me to get back on my meal plan. Also, the associate dean at the time of the School of Communication during my senior year would help me find resources for classes and materials, along with finding assistance or guiding me in assistance within finding a job on campus. Later, throughout that time when I was on the last chance payment plan, I had contacted ETV directly just to cover the final amount due of the last chance payment plan so I can graduate after 6 long years. My story is not an exception.
6 years.
It's a reality shared by so many young people aging out of the foster care system and are a part of the transition age youth. When foster youth go to college, they don't just face midterms and final exams. They face adulthood on hard mode. They are working long hours to pay for school, rent, food, and transportation, while others their age get to focus on being students. They are fighting burnout before they even start their careers. But it doesn't have to be this way. The funding towards Senate Bill 85 has the power to change this. It can help relieve the financial and emotional stress that so many transition age youth face when trying to pursue higher education. It can increase access, reduce barriers, and allow young people like me not just to dream of college, but to finish it. With the allocation of funds towards Senate Bill 85, you have the chance to make a long-term investment in the future leaders, artists, entrepreneurs, and public servants, kids who just need a fair shot to succeed. I'm standing here today not just for myself, but for thousands of young people who are talented, resilient, and full of potential, but also who are pushed to the margins by systems not built for them. Funding Senate Bill 85 will not only help level the playing field for foster youth, but it will also give Georgia's foster youth the chance to thrive and not just survive. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much. And I know we'll have questions, so y'all stay close to that mic. Senator Burns?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Embark, Georgia.
Yes.
Give us a 2-minute primer on Embark, Georgia, and the Fanning Institute's involvement in that. And
Oh, okay.
okay, just to make sure we're on the same page.
Yes. So I am not an expert on Embark, but Embark helps to manage those Chafee funds for the post-secondary education. Chafee funds also go towards like independent living, and so those funds for the state are split between education and training vouchers and independent living. So they help manage that. If the young people are needing their funds, they call Embark. Their representatives are really great at getting stuff where it needs to be on time, and they continually try to help with that.
Do they provide the financial counseling?
I
let
can speak to
me
that.
come back. Let me ask a question.
Yes.
How many transition age youth do we have in Georgia that need support?
About 700 young people transition out of care every year.
Every year.
Every year.
That doesn't mean all of them are going to go to college. That doesn't mean all of them have a high school diploma. And some of them could be transitioning out at the age of 21 as well.
Right. And I see from your notes that ETV supports roughly 250 to 300 students per year. Is that correct?
Correct.
And if I understand it correctly, Madam Chair, the support is capped at $5,000. Is that correct? And it is after HOPE, Pell, other federal aid support. Is that true?
It's so it goes Pell and then ETV, because
Pell,
that's a federal
Yep.
aid, and then the state-based aid.
Okay, so it'd be Pell, ETV, and then
If there's any state-based aid.
state-based aid. Now, are any of these youth HOPE eligible? Some might be,
Some, but majority are not.
but the majority would not be.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm just trying to understand where ETV fits and where SB 85 fits in the funding formulas. And if we're talking a $5,000 maximum allocation per transition age youth per student, and there are 300 students, our number is relatively small. Is that true?
700 students.
No, 700 total, but
Total.
only 300 of them might pursue. Even if it were seven,
Yeah.
even if it were 700 students, we're not talking about $2.1 billion. We're not talking about $210 million. We're talking about $2.1 million. Is that right?
Correct.
I'm just trying to
And
get to a number.
That's what I wanted to do, too.
SB 85 also is capped at $30,000 annually of support, but with having the federal aid included, that number will likely not reach that 30,000, and they have to go to school here in Georgia. And they can go to a private or a public school here in Georgia.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right, thank you. Okay. So I appreciate what you do. Thank you. I'm glad that we have at least a measure of potential support in addition to what's already available to our transition, to our former foster children who are going into higher education. We certainly want to encourage them to do that and support them in their efforts. I hear the frustration at things not matching up and losing credits and not getting some of the red tape removed. I know we've worked hard on trying to get some agreements on transfer credits so that students can retain those credits they've already earned as they move through various stages of their development and their
Now, you're talking about college credits?
Yeah,
or-
college credits.
College
We're talking
credits.
about college credits. We're talking about if I took a credit from college A, will it transition
Right.
and be acknowledged by college B?
But it sounded like with Kyla's situation, it was moving, Kayla.
Kyra.
Kyra.
Kyra. Pardon me. It sounds like that it was in high school when you had moved to different systems.
Was that high school credit transfers was
Those
the
were
problem?
High school credit.
Sorry?
High school credit.
High school credits.
High school credit
Okay,
problems.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. I was thinking it was your college credit transfers. No, it's high school, from one high school to another as you were having to
Correct.
move around the system.
Yeah, and that's a really common experience that our young people have. I worked with a student just last year who should have graduated a year prior, but she had moved to a new school and had to take all of her classes over again, even though she had passed all of them.
And was it a different
A new
school system?
school system?
A school system?
Yeah.
Like when you cross a line,
So it was
Yes.
suddenly
a
you're in.
secondary education transfer relationship.
Yes, and then Kyra, your experience was you were in one placement, you weren't moving around, but you had 3 different
Yeah.
educational experiences with credits not transferring.
Yes, due to me initially, I was homeschooled online prior to entering foster care, and then there was, so then I was moved to an online program, and then they decided, well, actually, you need to attend the local school in your county, and then between that, they didn't transfer my credits, even though I was in the same county, and that was also partially on the fault of like my placement too. And then after that experience, I also transferred to another county, but I also know a lot of people who experience care that often, you know, whether they move around different placements or whatever changes in their permanency of achieving, whether, you know, going home or aging out, this is a common experience across the board. And not only do many young people lose their credits, but many young people actually attempt to try to make up for it, whether that's requesting AP courses or dual enrollment, trying to get ahead. I've even requested testing out of courses that I've taken after moving into a different school system, and even after doing my research. Sometimes young people are not supported by, you know, guidance counselors or even DFACS workers. All of the work is pretty much done by the young person, and it's really up to whether, you know, the adults want to do their jobs, unfortunately, or listen to the information in order for you to get that step up and be able to, you know, move on to the next phase in life.
I don't know about y'all, but if I was 15 or 16 encountering all of that, I wouldn't be trying very hard after trying for a little bit.
Discouraging.
Yeah.
The, who's the first author of SB 85?
Senator Matt Brass.
Brass. And unfair question, was there a fiscal note?
That I couldn't tell
That's
you.
it, unfair question, not fair,
Yeah.
not fair. I apologize, that's one of the things
I do know-
over here in our reality,
Yeah,
fiscal
yeah.
note.
Yeah,
Are you talking about like the big budget?
No, no,
Okay.
no, a fiscal
note
note.
would give us an idea of what that program would
No.
have cost us.
We have our experts in the, on the back row over here saying, no.
No.
There was no fiscal note.
And so we would love to also just see like some initial funding so data can start to be collected. And we can see exactly how this needs to expand.
Good news.
Uh-huh,
The Rules Chair was a sponsor of the bill,
yep.
and the Appropriations Chair is heavily involved in foster care. Good news. They, basically, I'm saying they understand
Yes.
the problem and will be receptive to your request.
To, and to the request of their fellow senators, of course.
Absolutely. We're on appropriations, so.
That's right, that's right. I was, it really struck me, I think when we were speaking after the meeting that you all attended earlier, I had seen the statistic that something like only 3% of the young people moving out of the foster care system, aging out, and only 3%, or less, certainly less than 4%, but about 3% ever earned a baccalaureate.
Yeah, that data, there's some new data to that. The number is 8%. Still not a great number, but it is a little bit higher than 3%.
Yeah, I saw that a few years back, and I believe you said that 5.5%. To nail that down for us exactly, what's of students that receives some sort of post-secondary credential?
Yeah, so in Georgia, 5.5% of students who have experienced foster care do gain a post-secondary credential, whether that be a technical school credential or a bachelor's degree. And I believe it's 1% get a master's degree.
Yeah, it's stunning. And so it's congratulations to both of you all who, one of whom is at Georgia State, great school right down the street.
Yes.
And West Georgia College, I believe, is your alma mater, and you have completed your education at that school.
Yes, ma'am.
Against the many barriers that you described, and it just says so much about you that, but you don't want to be the unicorn, the one student that made it through. That's the whole point, right?
And we're definitely not the exception. That's why we're here today, because it really matters, and it matters to a lot of our peers. And we're here to make it easier for them as well, because there are many young people who would love to attend post-secondary education and do a lot with their lives. And that's something that, again, I mentioned in my statement that, with some of the great programs that we do have already, a lot of the young people are limited to other career paths, whether that's HVAC or, other technical things. But so many young people want to be able to do more, especially since we're in the midst of a technical or AI revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of young people really want to get into those engineering, software development programs to get ahead and be able to just live a decent life.
And build a skill set that takes them where they want to go.
Because those things will definitely change the economy for everyone.
Well, you all have provided me with a lot of information I didn't have before, and the fact that the language, which is not uncommon, as Senator Burns or Senator Davenport will tell you, that it's put in. This will be implemented at the point at which it's funded.
Yes.
funds are allocated. And that's commonplace language, and it's a way to, go die in the corner. If you don't, it's just not worth the paper it's printed on if it doesn't get funded.
Right.
But this is we're positioned
Yeah,
to move forward on
a
this.
comment, if you I just Googled, checked the legislative website. That bill was passed in April, early April 3rd, which meant we were at the end of the session. It was
Right.
signed into law by the governor, so
And we
it
were
has
there.
not had a chance to go through an
To
appropriation
get
cycle.
That's right. That's right.
And I would suggest that this is, we're in the appropriations process now. We're doing the preliminaries now. And that's the appropriate time to make sure that you raise your hand, and appreciate you doing that. But I would also like to point out that not only did Chairman Brass sponsor the bill, Chairman Tillery was a co-sponsor.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think it'll go through the process perhaps and find some support.
It should be teed up is the point. It looks
Exactly.
like
It
it's teed
should
up.
be in a position to be certainly considered. Hopefully you've had conversations with the governor's office. At the end of the day, if it's in the governor's request, it's a lot easier. If it comes to us without that request, it's a little more challenging, but we'll get there.
Well, and if anybody needs to talk to us, needs some lived experience experts, has questions, please send them our way, because we want to see this get funded.
And you look their way too.
We will be. We are.
And I would point out, SB 85 was a strong bipartisan bill.
Sure.
This
Yes.
was not a D's versus R's.
In fact,
We're not
anybody
arguing here. We're
Anybody
trying
that
to.
didn't vote for it probably
Well,
don't want to
there
show their
were
face
only,
in public.
there were
Yeah,
only one or
look,
two.
One or two we could
around,
name them.
but
Yeah, we
they
could.
were off the grid.
Thank you so much for allowing us to speak and share our experience.
Well, it's very illuminating and inspiring. Thank you, each and every one of you. And I'm glad we had the opportunity to meet the last time. I've remembered your story that you shared that day. Thank you so much. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
We have benefited from the Legal Defense Fund's efforts over the course of this study group, and have learned a lot more about what the Legal Defense Fund is doing on a national level. It's a time-honored institution that has a long list of incredible achievements of making a difference and moving the needle. And I would certainly say that in the case of the opportunity that we've had to benefit from the perspective and the expertise. I want to bring to the podium Ray Lee, who's in a prior life was an attorney with the Federal Department of Education, and is a leading light at the Legal Defense Fund, and we just appreciate very much, Ray. In fact, you met with one of our committee members. You gave an extensive kind of consult with them on understanding the perils of student loans. Since we came to know you, and still appreciate you for that. So without further ado, we will introduce you and thank you. You are a policy counsel at the Legal Defense Fund and have not missed a meeting. You've been with us through thick and thin, and so we're so glad to be able to hear from you today as you wrap us up before our public comments. And you have provided here it is. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Senator Orrock.
attorney.
Yeah, thank you so much, Senator Orrock, and thank you again to the committee for having us. Again, my name is Ray Lee. I'm a policy counsel at the NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund, and we're here today to talk about the Georgia college affordability crisis, and more specifically, why Georgia needs to adopt a comprehensive need-based aid program to ensure that all Georgians have access to affordable college in the state. And so a lot of today, what I'll be talking about is the testimony that we've heard over the last few months, some important statistics we've heard, the context, the problem, some policy choices that sit before the committee today, and one of the proposed solutions. So who are we, the Legal Defense Fund? We were founded in 1940 by Thurgood Marshall, and since then we've been the nation's premier racial justice law organization. We've done a lot of work in courts and in advocacy and in communities, from Brown v. Board to most recently this past month we were defending the Voting Rights Act again in the Supreme Court in the case Calais. And we currently do work on pillars related to education equity, economic justice, criminal justice, and political participation. And we have offices here in Atlanta, as well as in Washington, D.C. and New York. And we're not new to Georgia. LDFs has been around a long time doing work in Georgia, including through our founders and early attorneys at our organization. So in 1961, the University of Georgia accepted its first 2 black students, Hamilton Holmes and Charlene Hunter Galt, after LDF's advocacy in federal court in Georgia. A few years later, LDF's Constance Baker Motley argued Calhoun versus Latimer before the U.S. Supreme Court, opposing Atlanta's proposal at the time for their desegregation plan, as it had contradicted the standards in Brown v. Board, again, one of LDF's cases. And recently, we've been here. In 2025, we've worked with the coalition on the passage of Resolution 1357 in DeKalb County, focusing on water affordability for Georgians. So affordability has been front of mind for many in Georgia. And importantly, today, we're talking about college affordability and ensuring that all students in Georgia that think college is right for them, and for many it is, have that opportunity to go to college, regardless of who their parents are, regardless of how much money their family has. And so what's the context here? What are we really talking about? So we've heard a lot of statistics over the course of the last few months. I wanted to summarize a couple of those high-level ones today. So again, in the first hearing back in August, we had Dr. Kim from the SREB come here and give us some statistics about Georgia and tuition and costs in the region. And what we found out is that Georgia actually has the 6th lowest tuition and fees rate in the country, and the 3rd lowest in the SREB region. So tuition, we know, is already quite low. Even then, for low-income families, those that make $30,000 a year or less, it's still too much. Up to 61% of a family like that's income would be needed to be spent on tuition if they were to fund it themselves. Again, that is a lot of burden for families. We heard just last month, again, from Dr. Dana Rickman, about the average unmet need of Pell Grants in Georgia at 4-year public colleges. Again, unmet need is this concept of after you take the Pell Grant, after you take state aid, after you take all these things, what are the costs of tuition as well as room and board and other fees? And that average is $11,883 a year for Pell students. And again, we heard the statistic from Dr. Dana Rickman that the average student would have to work 33 hours per week in order to meet all of that unmet need. And as we know from various studies that I'll get into later, working anything more than 20 hours a week seriously affects the student's ability to perform in their coursework and, most importantly, graduate on time. And we also have heard from everybody, from the beginning of this hearing, from Attorney Nathan Corbett all the way through, that the result of this unmet need is that Georgia has the 2nd highest average student loan debt per borrower of any state in the country. And what we also know is that these numbers are not spread throughout the state equally. Black Georgians enroll in college at much lower rates than their peers. What we have seen is that Georgians, through the most recent census, 33% of Georgians are black, yet only 25.4% of students enrolled in the University System of Georgia, USG, are black. That number is even more stark at the most selective and expensive institutions in the state, Georgia Tech and University of Georgia, where that number is as few as 8%. And here's a real tale of two numbers I want you to look at. Again, 25.4% of USG college graduates or college students are black. 45.6% of USG total student debt is held by black borrowers. That is an incredible statistic. What you see here is that, again, about a quarter of the total students in the system are black, yet almost half of the total debt is owned by black borrowers. That's a racial disparity that needs to be addressed. And what we see in other states is there are programs that are meant to address this idea of students from low-income families getting a little bit of help from the states to ensure that college is an affordable option for all. I'm going to go through just some of those today. So we see here in Alabama, there's the Alabama Student Assistance Program. They offer up to $5,000 a year for students. The state invests $10 million a year in that program. In Florida, there's the Florida Student Assistance Grant Program. They offer up to $3,200 a year to students. Florida invests $269 million a year into that program. We see things in Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, North Carolina. We heard about the North Carolina Next Grant. They invest up to $3,950 per student, and they spend $166 million a year on that program. South Carolina has a need-based grant. They spend up to $3,500 per student, and they invest $88 million in their program. And I just want to talk about one last one. In Texas, they have something with the backronym that spells the Texas Grant that offers up to $16,000 a year in need-based aid to students, and the state invests $592 million in that grant. You will see that Georgia does not appear on this chart because, again, Georgia is one of only 2 states that does not have a comprehensive need-based aid program. Again, all of these programs are available to students at the time that they enroll. They're renewable. They help students make the choice of whether to go to college and where to go to college. And beyond that, they're on top of already existing merit aid scholarship programs that those states already run. So states like Florida offer merit aid, the Bright Futures program. It looks a lot like HOPE. And on top of that, they are still investing $269 million a year in need-based in addition to their merit aid programs. Other states like North Carolina, as we heard in the last hearing, dedicate 100% of their state-based aid to need-based programs. And you might be asking, Ray, what about the college completion grant? That's some money. And again, it is some money that goes here in Georgia to needy students. It's only available to students who are nearly complete with their college program. So it's a different type of program than what we're talking about in North Carolina, in Tennessee, and Mississippi. And it's about $10 million a year. That number is dwarfed in comparison to even one institution in this state, Emory University, which spends $223 million a year on need-based aid just for Emory students. Again, a single university here in Atlanta spends $223 million on need-based aid. States like Florida, again, spend $269 million on need-based aid. When you look at the whole region, Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi, Louisiana, all of these states that neighbor Georgia, we see a total investment in the southern region of around $900 million in need-based aid. Only one program is eclipsed by all of these. How much money Georgia spends on merit-based scholarships, the HOPE program, which is almost $1 billion a year. Again, more than almost the entire southern region is investing in need-based aid programs. And what does that mean? Here are some students that would be affected by that. Hypothetical student A is a senior at a public high school in Columbia County, Georgia, right near Athens, or right near Augusta. And student A is being raised by a single father who earns $42,000 a year, which is about the median income for the area. Student A likes school, but is unable to devote all of his time to school because he works a part-time job, about 20 hours a week, at a local restaurant to help his family with the bills. He graduates with a 2.9 GPA and is admitted to East Georgia State College. The state of Georgia would award student A $0 in financial aid. He doesn't qualify for HOPE. He doesn't qualify for Zell Miller. He doesn't qualify for the college completion grant. Take student B, on the other hand. Student B is a senior at Westminster Schools right here in Atlanta, where private school tuition for high school is $40,000 a year. Student B's parents are both corporate attorneys with a total household income of $1.5 million. Student B also enjoys school, but spends a lot of time on baseball as well. Graduates with a 3.3 GPA and is admitted to Kennesaw State. Student B would get the Hope Scholarship for about $5,600 a year, and that's how much aid the state of Georgia would be giving to this family that already makes $1.5 million a year. And let's look at student C. Student C would be student A's cousin, just a couple miles away across the border in Aiken, South Carolina. Student C similarly works part-time to help their family. They make only $50,000 a year, again, typical for the area. They get a 2.9 GPA and admitted to University of South Carolina's Aiken campus. The state of South Carolina would have given $3,000 in financial aid to this student. And so what we've seen is that Georgia's made a series of choices in which they're investing no need-based aid for student A, $5,000 of need-based aid to a wealthy student who could have already afforded to go to college, and by the circumstances of what state they were born in and how much money they made, they are getting less than their cousin that lives just a few miles away. And what we have there is a policy choice. And so what we see is that because of these choices, college has become unaffordable for many in Georgia. And unfortunately, it is going to get worse. Federal cuts at the in Washington, D.C. are going to affect college affordability for all students in this country and for those here in Georgia. Just a few of the things that I work on in my federal portfolio include changes in federal legislation and regulation that are going to make college more unaffordable. So for example, because of the, quote, One Big Beautiful Bill Act, there is now an elimination of the most affordable repayment options for federal student loans. That means most federal student loan borrowers are going to have longer repayment periods and less favorable terms for borrowers. There's also been the elimination of the Grad Plus program, which has helped many students go to graduate school on more favorable terms. There's been caps on Parent Plus loans, which make it so that parents who take out loans on their own behalf to help students go to college are not going to be able to take out the same amount as before. And there are now new caps that are being negotiated today at the Department of Education around loan limits for graduate students, including for those that will be attending pricey institutions like law school or medical school that far exceed these limits. And so students are either going to have to forego or they're going to have to go to private lender markets, which again have not been accessible to all. We've also seen changes at the regulatory level in changes to the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program that are going to make it much more difficult for certain public service loan borrowers to receive federal relief through that program. Beyond that, we've seen the Federal Department of Education eliminating funding for the Minority Serving Institutions Program, which benefits predominantly Black institutions and Hispanic serving institutions. Both of those are specific definitions within federal law. And so these institutions in the state are set to lose hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year in federal funding. Albany Tech, Clayton State, East Georgia State College, Georgia State. Again, a lot of the schools that we've been talking about, this affects community colleges, this affects four-year institutions. They are going to be receiving less federal funding.
Is this a comprehensive list?
Yes, that's the full list of schools that would be losing funding. And so let's drill into the problem a little bit more. Georgia's merit aid programs are great, but they leave too many behind. Again, they have overly restrictive criteria that oftentimes cannot be met. We've heard from foster students today about the difficulty that some of those youth have. Some high schools don't have the course requirements that satisfy the programs. We heard from a homeschool student about how some homeschoolers are also facing difficulty. So it's not just the GPA. There are other barriers that make it hard to access these programs. The Zell Miller program, and especially in years in which there's a big delta between the amount of funding in Zell Miller and Hope, is even more drastic because it relies on SAT scores or ACT scores. And we know that these are highly correlated with family income and high school resources. Test score requirements have been found in research over time to be especially biased against Black and low-income students for a variety of reasons. I'm happy to explain if you have questions. And the Thurgood Marshall Institute's report recently on admissions for democratic merit has shown that SAT and ACT scores are actually narrow in income incomplete predictors of academic performance, especially when it comes to predicting at how well Black or low-income students are going to do in college. And so who is being left behind by Hope? We know that there are different types of students. First, Black students. Only 35% of Black students receive the Hope Scholarship. Compare that to 50% of Hispanic students, 61% of white students, and 69% of Asian students. Black students, as a result, have the highest rate of student loan borrowing because of these lower investments in the state. As we saw, Black students make up almost about half of the total federal student loan borrowing in the state. And HBCUs in Georgia have the lowest percentage of Hope and Zell recipients, even though they enroll the highest number of needy students. We also know that low-income students generally are being affected. Low-income students are far less likely to receive the Hope Scholarship compared to their peers. We see that only about 7% of students and families making less than $30,000 a year receive the Zell Miller Scholarship, compared to 31% of families making over $120,000 a year. And rural students are being harmed too, again, because their high schools have been systemically disinvested and underinvested in. We know from GBPI's research that about 16 counties have less than 30% of their students eligible for the Hope Scholarship. And even when students are lucky enough to get Hope, just like with all journeys in life, hope is not enough. The Hope Scholarship needs to be supplemented by need-based aid because around 56% of the students in the system do not receive the Hope Scholarship at all, and about 42% will lose that scholarship at some point in their careers. And we've heard from two amazing students today that have relayed some of those experiences to you. Even when a student does have Hope, they keep the Hope Scholarship and are able to keep it for all 4 years, it is just covering tuition, which is not enough to cover the full cost of attendance, and students have to turn to another option in order to finance their higher education. In fact, in the state of Georgia, every single USG institution exceeds the total cost of attendance at those institutions exceeds the total amount of money they would receive from Hope and a full federal Pell Grant. Let's look at one of these institutions, Gordon State College. If you were to look at Gordon State, tuition is incredibly low. It's only $3,270 a year. Again, many other institutions in the state are similar, with tuition around $4,000, $5,000. But when you add fees that are another $1,000, housing that is $7,000, food that is $3,000, transportation to and from campus that's $3,000, books and supplies, personal expenses, you see a total cost of attendance of $23,858 a year. Let's say a student gets the maximum Pell Grant, the most money they can receive from the federal government to help them go to college. That's another $7,000 that will help them pay for college. And say they receive the Zell Miller Scholarship, they graduated #1 in their class. They would get another $3,000 from Zell Miller. That leaves $13,259 a year that this student would need to find in order to attend Gordon State. And again, these numbers are directly from the Gordon State cost of attendance calculators online. If you're looking to apply, this is the information that is being told to students. The average student would have to work 36 hours per week to attend Gordon State. And as we know, working more than 20 hours a week is not possible for most students, and it definitely hurts their ability to complete college on time and to succeed in those courses. And so we've seen that this lack of need-based aid in the state has affected college students at every part of the choice process. It affects students when it comes to the decision whether to enroll in college at all. We see from a recent Gallup survey that 55% of the students who chose not to enroll in higher education cited costs as the #1 reason. Other students are able to enroll, but they select more affordable institutions that are less well suited for them. This could be for a variety of reasons. It could be because this is less well suited for a variety of reasons. It could be further from home and their community or families that they need to support. It could be because they have academic programs or don't have the academic programs that the student intended to study. Or it could be that students got into more selective, more well-resourced institutions that will be better for their careers, but because of costs, they're unable to afford to go. And some students even go to college out of state. We've heard from some of those students because out-of-state institutions offer need-based aid that make them cheaper than in-state options. And as we've seen, this leads to brain drain in the state, where some of the most talented students are leaving the state because it is cheaper to go somewhere else, and they're never returning to the Georgia economy. We saw that from the GICA presentation back in September, where this stunning map shows that Georgia has the lowest home state college attendance in the region. Only 78% of Georgia high school grads stay in the state. Compare that to 91% that stay in Mississippi, 86% that stay in Florida, 85% that stay in South Carolina. We are losing a ton of students simply because they cannot afford to go to college here. And these aren't hypothetical students. This time, these are real students. So again, we heard from Brooke last month out in Milledgeville. Brooke was a student at Fort Valley State who told us about how her mother has always wanted to go to college, but how her mother is unable to because of the costs and because of the fact that her mother has already taken out loans to support Brooke and her 4 siblings as they attempt to go to college. We heard from Emily, a student at Georgia College State and University in Milledgeville, who's in the teacher education program, and she was talking about how the demands of the teacher education program make it so that you're unable to work a part-time job outside of it, and as a result, many of her peers are considering dropping from the teacher education program because they simply can't afford it, even though they are dedicated and want to serve Georgia students. And we heard from Kamor back in September, who is an amazing student who graduated a salutatorian of her high school class, got into a bunch of colleges, including her dream college, Georgia Southern, where she wanted to go. But even after receiving the Zell Miller Scholarship and Pell, there was still a $10,000 gap in her freshman year, and she chose to go to American University in Washington, D.C., because that very expensive private school ended up being more affordable because of need-based aid. Question? Okay.
I had an opportunity to chat with her about her experience at American, and like you, I wondered how American could provide her that option. Regrettably, they had a requirement that she achieve a certain academic status during her career at American University, and she missed a benchmark and lost that support. So, truth be known, perhaps a Georgia institution would have been a less expensive, but perhaps not her most desirable option. But just as a caveat, that instance was an incomplete illustration of her situation.
Right, but we also know that many need-based programs, especially at the more well-resourced institutions, have no such requirements. So Princeton,
I'm saying that one has to have an expectation.
Yeah, that is a thing that happens at some schools, but many institutions, for example, Princeton has a no tuitions for any family making $250,000 a year or less, which doesn't just capture low-income students, that captures pretty much all students around the country.
I believe Emory is
and Emory is very similar as well.
Similar, and I believe Georgia Tech here has right now it's I forgot the number, but it's also ramping up as far as
very similar. And so you see these private colleges all over the country that are.
Georgia Tech's not private, but So all I'm saying is I think institutions have taken a real strong lead in supporting some of the needs.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about that interaction between institutions and states later, actually. And so not only does the cost of college affect the college choice process, but we also know it affects students while they are in college and their ability to complete college. And so we know that financial pressures are the #1 reason that students are stopping out of college here. Not only here, but all across the country. And we heard from Tim Rennick back in September, in that September hearing, that even small balances, $300 or less, were often the reason that students were unable to finish a semester. We saw further that students testifying at the last hearing that oftentimes students are put in the impossible position between paying their bills and paying for tuition. We've also seen research that hasn't been presented yet from the Hope Center for College Community and Justice that found that out of college attendees, 18% of two-year college students and 14% of four-year college students were actually affected by homelessness while they were in school. So this isn't fancy dorms we're talking about. A lot of instances we're hearing about are students sleeping in their cars or couch surfing with friends. And we also, again, have seen research out of the University of Tennessee that looked at what effect working part-time during college has on students. And what they found is that working more than 20 hours per week led to a 66% fewer credits per year taken by students, which makes a ton of sense. You just don't have time to do your homework and study and also attend classes while you're working essentially a half-time or near full-time job. And so, yes.
Sure.
Just clarification. If I understand the Georgia State program, Tim Rennick's program, and he's done a great job. It's been an amazing example to the rest of the university system, and certainly to Georgia. Those are those small grants that cover the unanticipated life challenges. Is that correct?
I believe that program, and maybe others would know better, I think that program can cover any of the costs. It's just that it comes later. It's like the college completion.
It's like college completion.
It's like it's exactly like the college completion grant. Yeah.
So it's not.
It's not on the front end.
Based at the front
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
Okay.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you.
And I believe it's the model that led to the college completion grant.
I think you're
Yeah. And so again, we've heard this directly from students about the troubles of working and dealing with college affordability while they're enrolled. We heard from Shakira, who is a first-generation student who has a single mother and 7 siblings. And she worked 3 jobs while her mom works 3 jobs so that she can stay enrolled in college.
Yeah.
We heard from Briasia, who is an incredible student, who was able to pay off her first installment of student loans because she worked 4 jobs while in college. But she said that students should not have to choose between paying for college and paying for the bills. And we heard from Camille, who was a child of 5 and a first-year student at Fort Valley State, who said that she was even having trouble finding work study and other off-campus jobs that would help pay for the cost of college while she was there. And as a result, we know that unmet need is often met with student loans as a result. And student loans have been a drag on the Georgia economy. We see, again, about $11,000 in unmet need for Pell Grant recipients that are often turned into student loans. That has led to Georgia having the second highest average student loan burden in the country, with the average borrower owing more than $40,000 a year here in Georgia. And debt burdens make it harder for student loan borrowers to buy homes, to start families, and take meaningful but lower paying jobs in public service, like teaching or working for the public good. And this debt, again, is not distributed equally. We saw that about half of that debt is held by Black borrowers, and recent studies from the Student Borrower Protection Program have found that here in Atlanta, Black neighborhoods had about $7,000 more per person in student debt than white neighborhoods. And we had an interesting chart from the Chancellor and USG when they came in to talk about Senator Burns' questions of how much of this is undergraduate-only debt. So we want to separate that out. It's not the full 40,000, right? And so what we saw was this chart, and I've added some other numbers to it, and I want to walk through this very carefully. What we see is that in the research university, schools like Georgia Tech, schools like University of Georgia, Georgia State, the average bachelor's degree student loan debt is around $21,577 a year. What we do see also, though.
A year?
No.
Oh, sorry, that's the total student loan debt that they have. And what we see from the state universities is that the average student loan debt is $25,000 a year. That number shouldn't be in that direction. We see actually on the cost of attendance column that the research universities cost $27,000 a year and the state universities cost $23,000. So what we see is something in the upside down. The most expensive universities in the state actually have the lowest amount of student loan debt. How could that be? Enter column 3. We see that the average HOPE award given to students in the top universities in the state when it comes to selectivity is $4,308 a year, whereas the average HOPE recipient in the state university system is $2,447 a year, and that's for students who do receive the HOPE scholarship. And what we know is that students at Georgia Tech, UGA, entering freshmen, nearly 100% of them are receiving the HOPE scholarship, and at schools like Gordon State, it's not the case. And so what we have seen is that the student loan debt is being effectively addressed by aid from the state. It's just the fact that that aid is merit aid, and it's being directed at families that oftentimes can already afford college. And that, again, is a policy choice. So I know I've said some scary statistics and some heart-wrenching stories today, but I have some good news. This is not impossible. There is a solution here. And again, that solution is comprehensive need-based aid from the state of Georgia to low-income students. Is this going to solve all of college affordability? No, but let me talk about what it will do. And to do so, let's look at what other states have already done. We have seen in we have seen in the last hearing, NC Next came in to talk about what North Carolina is doing in their need-based aid model. Again, that's a program that's available for in-state tuition. It's for high school graduates who are enrolled in state. They meet Pell eligibility and satisfactory academic progress requirements. They're not in default on any student loan program. They filed the FAFSA. They have a student aid index of $7,500 or below, which is about an adjusted gross income of $80,000 or below. And what we see is that the state of North Carolina, similar to here in Georgia, have different tiers of schools. Tier 1 schools like UNC, NC State, Tier 2 like more of the regional schools in the state, et cetera, that vary based on cost. And what we see is that North Carolina has invested about $166 million for 76,000 students in need-based aid. That averages to about $2,189 per student, which is a significant but not insurmountable amount. And what we also heard were some statistics from North Carolina on what that program actually did for the state. Let's compare the two sets of students that they showed us. First was the average need-based aid recipient of Next NC, who came from a family income of $37,000 a year. The other student was the average non-recipient that came from a family income of $134,000 a year. When you first look at these students, they look remarkably different. But then we looked at their educational outcomes after they received a need-based aid grant, and they actually look remarkably similar. What we have here in credits attempted per term for students that receive the need-based aid is 14.3. For students who don't, it's 14.5. For semester-to-semester retention rates, it was 94% versus 94.7%. We have almost identical credit taking and semester-to-semester retention rates for two groups of students that should have wildly different outcomes because of everything we know about family resources, income, and how that relates to educational progress. But because of a small grant of nearly just $2,100 per student on average, North Carolina was able to close incredible wealth gaps in their state. And other states have done the same. We've seen in Florida, they have a program called the Florida Student Assistance Program. Again, this sits on top of their existing Bright Futures program, which is available for students on the basis of merit aid. This provides aid to students in public, career, private, and post-secondary institutions with an average aid amount of a little less than North Carolina, around $1,683. And what we're looking at is a total number of students of 160,000 students, and they're investing $269 million in that need-based aid. So again, $269 million in need-based aid coming from Florida and going to about 160,000 students. And now here's Texas with the Texas grant. Texas similarly has a grant program like the other two that is available to Texas students that does not have test score requirements, that just requires you to complete the FAFSA and to have financial need and to enroll in a school in the state. Their semester maximum is $5,394, which for a year, for a summer, fall, and spring semester load would be a maximum of $16,000 a year that you can receive from the state of Texas in need-based aid. As a result, Texas gives out $592 million in need-based aid. Granted, it's a very large state. And back to Senator Burns' question before about what institutions are doing versus the state, these are just state programs. The University of Texas actually has implemented system-wide its own need-based grant program. We heard from Chancellor Perdue earlier about the fact that USG is considering a $4.5 million scholarship that will help about 100 or 180 students, I think, with need-based aid for college. This is what Texas has done. The UT system, just a couple years ago, has made it so that on the institutional level, any families making $100,000 a year or less are charged no tuition. On top of that, you receive the Texas grant for other costs of attendance if you come from a needy family. This is how institutions and states can work together to provide opportunities for college to be more affordable for students. And so what can we do here in Georgia? We heard from GBPI and the amazing Ashley Young about a proposal. And this proposal would, again, be a need-based proposal for aid in the state. It would be based on the SAI, the Student Aid Index, which is a federal formula that you can calculate of how much a family can afford to go to college. And you would have average award amounts of around $1,500 for the neediest students, $534 for the less needy students, and that's based on a per credit hour amount. That would help a total of 118,000 students statewide for a total cost of $126 million. So again, $126 million is the total cost for 118,000 students here in Georgia. That number is based on the fiscal note that came about last session. And where would that money come from? Again, our partners here at GBPI talked about the lottery and lottery funds, and the fact that there are about $1.6 billion in unrestricted reserves currently sitting in the Georgia State Lottery for education. These funds constitutionally can be used for aid programs and have been used for HOPE already. Interest alone on those unrestricted reserves would amount to $119 million a year. So $119 million from interest, $126 million program. That's without even touching unrestricted reserves. That's without touching new taxes. This is a reasonable amount to spend on a program. And again, a modest sum. What we could get for $126 million a year here in Georgia is a comprehensive need-based aid system that would help $118,000 a year. $126 million, you would note, is about $4 million less than the University of Georgia paid Kirby Smart, their football coach, to extend his contract at $130 million a year. Go Dogs.
Lord, have mercy.
So what I am saying here is that Georgia has a strategic opportunity to invest in the state. You can supercharge the Georgia economy, which is already the #1 state in the country to do business. Need-based aid will help entice some of the brightest and most talented students from leaving the state, so we're reducing brain drain. And it's going to lower student loan burdens, as we've seen. And lowering student loan burdens is going to help families, it's going to help people in the economy, it's going to help home ownership and other numbers that add money to the economy. And here's one of the most important statistics I'm going to talk to you about all day. They've done research in Florida after the introduction of the Florida Student Assistance Grant and found that it increased the number of graduates per year in Florida by 22%. Nearly a quarter more graduates were able to go because of a program in Florida that again was offering about $2,000, a little less than $2,000 per year per student. And so what we see is some economic modeling that we've done here at LDF. And I'm going to walk you through this because I know it's a lot of numbers. But first, the USG currently graduates 43,000 students a year at a graduation rate of about 38%. Need-based aid, as we've seen in Florida and other states that are similar, I believe Wisconsin had a similar study, increased graduation rates by 22%. Not 22 percentage points, by 22%. That means there would be an additional 9,610 college graduates a year in Georgia if need-based aid were adopted. What does that mean? USG just this year recently released its own analysis of the value of a USG degree. And the average USG bachelor's degree holder will make $1.4 million more in their careers than someone who does not have a degree in Georgia. That means that you have 9,600 students who now have degrees because of need-based aid that will be earning $1.4 million more each. That is a total increased income of $13.6 billion in the Georgia economy.
That's
Georgia,
lifetime income.
lifetime earnings.
Thank you. So it's lifetime. It's over
Lifetime.
a 40-year period.
Over a 40-year period. It's $13 billion. What we see in Georgia is we actually have a flat tax here of about 5%. And so the total income generated or tax generated on income tax only from this additional lifetime earnings is $707 million per cohort. That is just income tax, and this is an underestimate. We're not talking about additional job creation. We're not talking about property taxes. We're not talking about increased sales tax revenue. This is just income tax, is $707 million a year of returns. To fund a cohort through their entire course of college would be about $119 million in the USG system. So for the price of $119 million in need-based aid for students to get them to the point of graduation, you are going to see $707 million as a result. That is an ROI of 493%. And so again, that is lifetime, but that is undercounting all of the additional benefits that we get from having more graduates making more money in the state and supercharging the economy. So what I've talked about today is a context, a problem, and many choices that are facing this committee about whether to support a need-based aid program. And what we've seen is that need-based aid will help graduation rates, it will help students stay in Georgia, it will help students earn more money in Georgia, and that in turn will help Georgia. And so when faced with all of these policy choices today, please know that a need-based aid comprehensive solution is a policy solution. Thank you.
That's right. That's right. And this last slide is, really paints the picture.
First, thank you for the thorough presentation. And as my colleagues have pointed out, enormous amount of information. Take a while to digest all of it. I would make a point, just a comparison point. Kirby Smart does not work for the University of Georgia. Kirby Smart
Yes.
works for the USG, the University of Georgia's football
Athletic
foundation,
program.
athletic program.
Yeah.
And his salary is independent of any educational funding in the state.
Absolutely.
Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
So you were just
This is just a comparison to show how much money it is.
About money,
Yeah.
but this
It's
is
not state money.
It's
Yeah.
not state money.
Yeah.
It's not state tax money. It's not
Right.
tuition. It's not Hope Scholarship.
No.
It has nothing to do with education. It has to do with marketing football.
It's marketing football, and it shows that Kirby Smart will be making that amount of money, and Kirby Smart's kids in Georgia will be eligible for state aid,
If
whereas
they-
others will
if-
not.
If they are Hope eligible, that because they're good
Yeah.
students, they would be. You're
Yeah.
correct. Okay. So.
What is the student borrower protection, Ray, that you referenced?
Student Borrower Protection Center.
Yes, yes.
That is another advocacy group that focuses on federal student loan and federal student aid policies, and so they're active in litigation and policy advocacy related to federal student loans,
Related to,
federal student loan programs.
federal student,
Yeah.
and they're DC based?
I believe they're either DC or Boston based.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And who's the number one state in student loan? We're number two with the debt load.
Maryland. And Maryland, as Senator Burns has noted, a lot of the overall numbers are driven by the relative portion of graduate versus undergraduate. But a statistic that would be helpful here is we saw that the USG system in the comprehensives was about $21,000 of undergraduate-only debt. North Carolina system-wide is about $19,000 of undergraduate-only debt.
System-wide undergraduate.
Yeah, so not just the UNCs, but also the smaller regional colleges as well. And so we see just on the bachelor-only data that undergraduate-only borrowing in the state in Georgia is still higher than other states that have need-based aid.
If if I may?
Yes,
Yeah,
Mr. Chair.
at the last slide, if you, the Georgia Strategy Opportunity.
Yeah, that's what I was looking
Okay, still a little fuzzy about how you share numbers. I agree with the fact that you utilize some USG data on the value of a college degree. Thank you. And I accept those. I think the $1.4 million earnings premium, that's the additional dollars.
That's additional over a high school.
Over high school.
Yeah.
And it's for a lifetime.
Lifetime.
Okay.
So 40 years.
40
Lifetime
years,
earnings.
Lifetime earnings. And the
Okay.
total increase to Georgia is that
13.6.
13.6 billion for
The 40 years.
for 40 years. So that's
Yeah.
also over that
Yeah.
student's lifetime, okay? Again, state income tax is a fair statement. That's what it currently is. Certainly, there's discussion about what it might be in the future.
Right,
but
it could
that-
change.
It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, as you pointed out,
It's flat.
that earnings goes into the
Yeah.
economy.
Yeah.
And it has a multiplier effect, which is
Exactly.
tremendously advantageous to the state. So if I look at the $707 million in total income generated per cohort,
Per lifetime, yeah. It's like the
Cohort.
lifetime. Imagine like the high school class of 2025.
Right.
If you were to invest in their
in
whole
their
college
fu- in their
career,
future,
you'd pay over the course of all of their college career $119 million. It's about 20-something million dollars per year for a little bit more than 4 years because the average student's not graduating in exactly 4. And so in that cohort for the class of 2025, you would invest $119 million to get them over the line. And over the course of their lifetime, that is $700 million more in just income taxes.
Just income tax.
Yeah, not including additional sales, additional spending in the economy, job creation, all of that. Property taxes, because they're going to be buying homes instead of renting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Help me with your ROI calculation.
that's just the 707 divided by 111 or 19 million. So it's 5 times. You're getting 5x.
Almost 6.
You're getting 5x because you have to take out the original 119 million. Yeah.
There you go. So roughly 5. Okay. Let me. Can I go back and ask?
You can go back to any slide you want.
Okay. Let's slip back to some of your comparison slides where you were looking at other states, and I appreciate that. It's very helpful. And again, I appreciate North Carolina Next coming in and sharing their programs with us. I'm trying to find the slide. Go back.
Which one, for North Carolina?
No, I'm way back on slide 9. Okay.
9. Okay.
So this is the beginning of looking at Georgia as an outlier
Yeah.
by not
Yeah.
not providing these kinds
Right.
of support options. And so Alabama's fairly modest, wouldn't you say?
Alabama's very low, and I was trying to look into why. It's a very few amount of students receive need-based aid.
Yeah, I'm only looking at max 2,000.
Yeah, I believe it's because Alabama has more of an institution-based model, and I think a lot of their aid is coming, they do revenues to the institution. So part of like Texas's plan that they're able to fund that 100,000, anybody under 100,000, is there's direct
Institutional
appropriations
revenue.
to institutions to then give to students.
Right.
These are, the things on this chart are just dollars that go from the state to a student.
Okay, hold that thought for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Does Georgia have institutional support?
There's some, and the chancellor came in and announced a $4.5 million
But if I
program.
looked at the 26 institutions, the USG, and the 22 institutions in TCSG, do they?
I
also
assume they
have-
all have, and I know
It'd
we
be
have
helpful, I
USG.
think, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
if we knew what that was,
Yeah.
because it's a part of the overall funding opportunity.
Right.
So if
So-
Georgia Institute, and again, I want to congratulate Emory, boy, they've
Mm-hmm.
really stepped up. It's a huge investment
Yeah.
on their foundation's part. And I suspect that other privates have similar support programs when they
Many
have the
do.
foundational level. But if you look at Florida, it looks like somewhere around 80,000 or so students can be supported. Is that fair?
No, I believe the number's larger than that. Florida, and we had that from the They have 160,000 are supported.
Okay, but
The average aid award is 1,600.
the aggregate award is 60.
Yeah,
That's
these
what
are
I-
maxes.
So 32 is their max, 1,600
Yeah,
is their
average. Yeah.
Very good. That's helpful. So they really support a much larger
Right.
number of students.
Right.
Okay.
And our proposal is similarly tiered, where students would get different amounts, both based off of how many credit hours they're taking, as
Right.
well as what their aid index would
Right,
be.
and in North Carolina, which we looked at carefully, and you've got an extra slide there, their maximum is 39, but their average is less than that. Is that
Right.
right? So they're helping, they're supporting how many students? in
Their
that?
average is 2,100, and they're supporting 76,000 students. So less than Georgia as a state in population, but yeah,
They're supporting roughly 76,000 students.
76,000 students.
76,000.
And these are on the slides too, if
And-
you want to
and-
refer
yeah,
back.
I think they're further into the deck. I think
Mhm.
I think these were
Yeah.
further in the
Yes,
deck. as far
yes,
as the-
yeah.
So currently Georgia, just in the USG, has roughly. how
Total
much?
students,
Total students.
it's like 300,000 something.
340,000
Yeah.
or so.
Yeah.
And then about another 100 TCSG total enrollment, 120-ish. My only point is, how many students out there in Georgia need need-based support?
The fiscal note put it at 118,000. Some of those students would only be receiving only about $500 a year, and some would be receiving up to
And
$1,500.
when you say the fiscal note, that's
Fiscal note.
based on,
There was a fiscal note in the last session.
in the last session on
That Sally.
Sally and you
That's right.
worked on, it was 100 and how many thousand did you say?
118,000 students, $126 million.
Gotcha. Thank you much.
And average aid, if that's helpful, or,
Yeah.
yeah, average would be 1,500 for the neediest students, 500 for the students who have a little bit more income.
So from 500 to 1,500.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your input.
Thank you.
Senator Davenport, do you have any comments or question? Yeah.
I looked at all these federal cuts.
Oh, the federal cuts. Oh,
Yes.
there you go. That's a big reality check.
Yeah, it really is. I've always been real concerned with students really getting.
Speaking to your mic.
I've always been concerned about students who have the opportunity to go to attend college. They get there, and once they get there, it's a problem staying. Not because of grades, but because of all the other challenges
Yeah.
from home. That's always been my concern.
Yeah, and some of these federal cuts are going to come at that because the specific grant programs that have been cut, the predominantly black institutions program, PBIs, and Hispanic serving institutions program, HSIs, those aren't financial aid programs for institutions. Those are mainly for institutions for things like retention programs, student counseling, helping students get across the finish line. And so those monies have been cut from those institutions.
So if there was ever a time to tackle this,
It's now.
now is the time.
Well, thank you for your presentation, and you've laid out a good plan here for us to start investing
I would
and
agree.
giving us a good roadmap of what we should do.
Just a follow-up, I apologize. On slide 39, we're looking at current HOPE. We're fortunate to have HOPE here, and we're fortunate to have those funds administered, 1.6 billion unrestricted reserve with an interest on unrestricted reserve. What was your return on that 119 million? Annual return, do you recall?
That is a number from GBPI. I don't know if
Okay.
Ashley has the
I'm
number
just
on
saying,
that.
What is your
So
question
my
exactly?
question is, if I had $106 billion and I could invest it today in name that investment, what would be my rate of return needed to generate 119 million annually and not touch principal? In other words, it'd be
Got it,
it'd
yeah.
be basically an endowment.
Right.
And
You're treating
again,
it like an endowment fund.
Treating it like endowment. And
Yeah.
I would suggest to the committee that if you endowed the fund, it would not require annualized
Right.
funding from the legislature.
Right. You could fund the endowment once, and then
Once.
just the return on bonds or marketable
And which is
securities.
exactly what Emory has done.
That's exactly how all these institutions are able
All of the
to do it.
institutions have done. They've created an endowed fund, and then they support scholarships off of the
Through
earnings
that.
on the endowment.
Exactly. And what you have is already created a pseudo endowment by having a
And
lottery
the
fund.
USG has
Yeah.
a small, but
Still
growing,
sizable, yeah.
fund founded through private donations,
Mm-hmm.
and institutions, public and private, have similar foundational funds that support need-based scholars.
Yes.
Again,
That puts it very well,
rough numbers, 4%, which is about all my financial advisor will let me count on.
4% is the safest for a state, because
Exactly.
that's going to be
Yeah,
the
yeah,
bond
we're
rate.
very conservative.
Yeah.
That generates about 64 million.
Yeah.
6% roughly 96 million. 8% roughly 128 million.
Mm-hmm.
I can't count on 8. I can't really count on 6. Our retirement advisors suggest
4 is the safest withdrawal
4
rate
to
that
5,
institutions
yeah.
use.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Appreciate it.
So just to state your last point again, Senator Burns, with the endowed.
I would say that if you were to fund a needs-based program that would be successful in perpetuity, it would need to be through the endowment
approach.
approach.
Right. Yeah, and if Senator Burns says like a 4% rate, you could do that without risk because that's around the bond rate. And so you
that's
could
the
buy
least-
just U.S. Treasuries
Yeah, you
with
could
$100
buy-
million or $1 billion, and you'd get, the
got-
4% back.
You got a 4% return.
Yeah.
Now, that wouldn't fund your need, but that would fund half the
Yeah.
need, maybe more.
Right. And if you dip into the reserves further to fund or yeah.
I would hope we could understand what current foundational support in both publics and privates we have available and try to find where the gap is. We're looking at the gap. There's obvious, I should say obvious, there appears to be a gap. We just need to understand the extent of the gap, not at the student level. We're not looking at
Right.
the student gap need. I think we have a pretty good idea there. It's the gap between available support and need, the amount of need.
Yeah, and the unfunded portion of that.
Right, okay, thank you. Very good, thank you.
Any closing comments
That's it. Thank you so much.
from the speaker?
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much. That's it. We now have, as we near the end of the agenda, this is the time for public comment, and would ask people we didn't put out a sign-up sheet, did we? Oh, we did? Where is it? Do people sign, I don't know, sometimes you walk in and you don't realize there's a sign-up sheet, but if you know that you want to offer a comment, you could line up right there along the wall and stand at the ready.
Stand ready, I like the ready.
I guess I was the only one, I guess. So I, first of all, thank you so much for the work that y'all have done through these hearings. I've been to some in person and watched some online. My name is Sam Alenikoff. I'm the executive director at College AIM.
Right.
Y'all heard from a couple of my colleagues, Jamesia Craig and Kamor Campbell, earlier. I think it was in September. And I know they both appreciated the opportunity to share their experiences as well. I wanted to make a brief public comment just because I know one of the quotes from Kamor came back today, and there was some questions, Senator Burns, that you had around the exact situation. I actually stepped out to call Kamor to make sure my recollection was correct, but wanted to share that here. I was Kamor's counselor when she was in high school as I launched the organization and worked closely with her through college. Kamor actually, her freshman and sophomore year, had full need met by American University, and that's why she ultimately made that decision, recognizing the gap at Georgia Southern would have been about $11,000 to $12,000 per year versus American, which there was none. At the end of her sophomore year, her GPA dropped to a 2.9, and as y'all remember from HOPE, 42% of students in Georgia lose hope because that GPA drops below a 3.0. The same thing happened with Kamor. And when that happened, she lost her merit-based scholarship that was provided at American University. It was the presidential scholarship. That scholarship was $10,000 per year. She suddenly had a $10,000 gap. The difference at American is she had a safety net built in with need-based financial aid. So that $10,000 gap was the entirety of her gap. Had she been in Georgia, dropped to a 2.9, lost hope, her gap at Georgia Southern would have suddenly been $16,000. Faced with that type of gap, she may have had to stop out, drop out, or not complete. But at American, she was able to persist, she was able to graduate, because that was a gap that she could make up through a combination of work and loans for the first time. And again, that need-based aid provided a safety net for her at American. My hope, and from speaking with Kamor in the hallway just briefly, her hope as well, is that a need-based aid program in Georgia would provide that safety net so that when a student does lose hope, when they drop down to a 2.9, not all hope is lost for them in essence. So I just wanted to make sure to clarify that perspective as well. Yep.
Follow up, man.
Yeah, please do.
Clarification.
Yes, sir.
The need-based aid from American University was institutional need-based, so was it not?
Yes, that's correct.
So it wasn't a state-based aid or
You're
federal
exactly right.
aid, or it was
Yeah,
the
private
support that American provided, similar to what Emory would be providing.
Exactly.
Is that not fair? So I think part of my question is, are we already addressing at least a part of the problem? And then if we are, how? And I don't know. I think we are in some ways.
I think we're taking steps in that direction.
And
would
I
agree.
also agree with you. I think, we need perhaps to look at the Hope Recovery Program, because as you experienced, and I've experienced, good students have challenges, especially in that first year or that second year. Mm-hmm. And it's a big transition. So if I fail to meet a certain milestone, the time it takes to recover that lost support could be daunting. You might not be able to get back to where you hoped you could be, using the metaphor. But I acknowledge that Hope is an excellent system. We're blessed to have it. But perhaps there's some opportunities to assist students in other ways.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for your time.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
I had a question. You were the founder of the organization.
Yes, I was.
And what are the circumstances that led you to make that decision?
Yeah, I was a teacher at Towers High School in DeKalb County, teaching math, everything from algebra to AP calculus, everything in between. And I had a student a brilliant, talented student who sat in the back of my class every day. She was one of those students who, as a teacher, makes you read a couple chapters ahead so you can assign them extra work to keep them going. She was just brilliant. And she walked out, this was in an 11th grade pre-calculus class, so she was on an advanced track. And she stopped me on the way out of class, and she said, "Mr. A," that's what my students called me, "Mr. A, I want to go to college." And I looked at her and I said, "Jody, of course you want to go to college. You have a 4.0 GPA, you're the brightest kid in the class." But for her, it was a pretty revolutionary statement. Only 40% of the students from our high school at that time were going on to any type of post-secondary education program. So that's a technical college program, an associate degree program, a bachelor degree program. And she was going to be the first in her family to go to college as well. So for me, what seemed like a simple statement was quite revolutionary. And we built out a program at Towers High School that now serves five schools across DeKalb County and about 5,000 students per year, just like Jody, who want to continue on to college and and keep going with their professional trajectory. I'll share that Jody, that original student, went on to Spelman, where she graduated at the top of her class with a 3.9 GPA. She then came back to work for College AIM. As you heard from Kamor, a lot of our students do come back because they want to support the next group.
Right.
She worked for us as an advisor, then went to Emory, where she earned her master's in nursing, and now she's working as a pediatric nurse. So that's the type of cycle that we see with so many of our students. Jody's just one example.
And how does the organization support the work? What's your annual budget? And
Our annual budget is quite modest. This year, it's around $1.5 million, and we're supporting 5,000 students. I will share that through federal funding cuts, which we've obviously talked about at the institutional level here, through federal funding cuts as well as some losses to national corporate funding in the last year, we lost about a third of our budget overnight, practically at the beginning of this year. So our budget is at a reduced capacity at this point, and our students are incredible. They deserve every penny we put into them, and I hope the state will continue to increase their investment as well.
thank you very much. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Well, I'm glad. I know that you were several states away at a professional conference when your colleagues spoke, and
Appreciate you coming.
I'm glad that you were able to be with us today. And of course, I know you work with the coalition that's very committed to advancing student opportunities, and that you're a diligent member of that. But glad that you could come in person today and you know, shed some real light. And also, I didn't know your background of how you came to launch the organization. And everybody that I know that's running a nonprofit now is facing dire decisions and very harsh prospects budgetarily. Not a pretty picture. A good time for us to come up with some innovative approaches. Senator Burns, thank you for contributing mightily in that regard. I am. If no further comments,
One final comment,
please,
Madam
please.
Chair. I want everyone to know that on Saturday, the chairman will have a birthday. I'd like to wish her the best wishes for her birthday on the 8th of November.
and I would like to return those wishes, warm wishes, I might add, to my colleague, to the chair of the Higher Ed Committee, former member of Congress, former college president, Max Burns, who also will celebrate another turn around the sun on Saturday, November the 8th. It's called, I know the cake is all it's
Hey,
missing.
where's the cake?
I know.
They had a big cake down for the Marines. We could go down and join them.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
Another innovative suggestion.
250-year-old Marine Corps. They had a cake downstairs with lots of candles. We're not 250, are we?
No,
No.
not even collectively.
Not even collectively.
Put us both together, and you still don't get to that vaunted number.
May I tell a story?
I would be so
A
appreciative.
little entertainment to lighten the day. Years ago, my son and I, on the western slope of Colorado on a Friday night, we went to a jackpot rodeo. Have you ever been to a rodeo in Colorado on Saturday night? Wow. Yeah, born and raised. There you go. Well, it's where everybody gets together and they display their skills. They have a team roping competition, and one of the team roping competition classifications was you had to have a century of ropers. So you could have two 50-year-olds, a 75-year-old, and a 25-year-old. You had to have 100 years on horseback in order to
be eligible.
compete in that competition and win prize money. It's a great. So
But it
even
wasn't- that was-
together, we can't compete.
That was not a basis for needs-based
It was not.
financial aid,
It was
though,
not.
was it?
It was totally not. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we'd like to thank everybody who have been with us over the course of these hearings and committee meetings. Thank the Lieutenant Governor for appointing the committee. We survived getting through rules and getting this committee appointed. We'll meet again for our final meeting on December the 2nd, which I believe is a Tuesday, and at which we will hope to ink our committee report and get it filed. And we have gotten an extension granted to go past the end of November in terms of getting our report finalized and passed in the last meeting. But we will hope to see you there and welcome any input that anybody cares to make. Certainly, thanks again to today's presenters, just a wealth of information. Appreciate each and every one of you, and appreciate the Legal Defense Fund and its long and storied history that's continuing to this day. We are now adjourned, and hope everybody has a great journey to the next thing on your agenda. That's right.
In traffic.